Welcome once again, Bond fans, to this video. Today we'll be looking at shipping lane magnate Karl Stromberg, possibly one of the least memorable villains to appear in the series, but let's give him the attention he deserves. But if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, and on that note, pay attention OO7 fans. One of the richest men in the world, Karl Stromberg was born in Apfurst, a small village in northern Sweden. His biological father was a fisherman who never married his mother. He would go on to be raised by an aunt on his mother's side and her husband, who had no other children to call their own and so treated him as such. Thusly, he took on his stepfather's surname, who was an undertaker by trade. Young Stromberg would often stand in his stepfather's workroom and observe the skills of his craft. Stromberg was not a warm-natured child, though he worked conscientiously at school and became passionately interested in the sea. He was fascinated by fish and would spend long periods of time watching a fish tank in the window of a restaurant in the nearby small town of Magmo. School reports indicated that he was academically brilliant, with a natural bent towards the sciences and an IQ deemed to be so high as to be unmeasurable. Shortly after his 17th birthday, his step-parents were killed when their car crashed off the road after the brakes failed and plunged into a nearby lake, drowning them both. However, Stromberg had a phlegmatic disposition in reaction to the tragedy, but won the respect of the neighborhood by organizing the funeral arrangements himself. His teachers urged him to sell the undertaking business, or to take on a manager at least, so he himself could continue his studies and attend university, foreseeing a great future for him in academia. He rebuffed their advice, however, and devoted himself to continually running the business. He ran the business with great vigor and showed a remarkable convergence with death. He advocated for cremation as the cleanest, purest, and most ecologically satisfactory burial method. His insistence on clients opting for cremation was so he could extract gold fillings from corpses to supplement his income without leaving any evidence. As his business prospered, he eventually built his own private crematorium, hiring a construction firm that previously had been contracted to build larger-scale crematoriums in Nazi Germany during the Holocaust. After first making a small fortune as a corrupt undertaker, Stromberg later moved his business to Hamburg following the end of World War II and began investing into the shipping industry, noticing that most of Europe's merchant fleet had been sunk during the war. Eventually he took over a large shipping line from a Greek shipping magnate that he had assassinated, along with 8 European criminal leaders in order to inherit the dead men's interests and power. From this, Stromberg was able to establish the Stromberg Shipping Line. Though specializing in the transportation of crude oil, the company mostly serves as a front for the apocalyptic scheming of its founder.
It is a fish. That is the symbol of the Stromberg Shipping Line.
Karl Stromberg? But he's one of the richest men in the world.
One of the principal capitalist exploiters of the West, sir.
Stromberg hires scientists Professor Markowitz and Dr. Beckman to develop a submarine tracking system that he can use to hijack the SLBM-equipped submarines, Britain's HMS Ranger and the Soviet Potemkin. With these at his disposal, he plots to use both submarines, now manned by his own crews, to launch nuclear strikes against New York City and Moscow, which will result in global nuclear warfare, and thereby destroying a world he sees as irredeemably decadent, in order to remold human civilization by ruling over a new undersea kingdom from his amphibious power base, Atlantis. However, Stromberg's plan begins to unravel close at home when he discovers that his own assistant had placed a microfilm of the tracking system up for sale. After killing the culprit, Stromberg launches a campaign to kill anyone who has come into contact with the microfilm. Unfortunately, these actions gain the attention of both MI6 and the KGB, along with their top operatives, OO7 and XXX. No, not that one. Ah, there we go.
Every person who even comes into contact with that microfilm is to be eliminated.
Stromberg's fascination with the sea was itself symbolic of the man himself, a smooth and unreliable variety whose black, smooth surface tried to hide emotional life underneath. A voluntary hermit and classic misanthrope, Stromberg was frustrated by humanity's exploration with space, given that 70% of the planet still had to be explored, referring to his beloved seas. It should also be noted that Stromberg related to the creatures of the sea much more than just a simple love of nature. Due to a genetic mutation, he had developed webbed hands, something that contributed to his disconnect from humanity. Since he was convinced that mankind would sooner or later destroy itself, Stromberg felt called to speed up the process by a nuclear war he incited to commit. He was so set on his goals and beliefs that he was willing to accept the judgment of posterity for his attempted mass murder. His intention was to stand up like a sovereign of a submarine kingdom after the nuclear holocaust itself. Stromberg remarked to James Bond that he barely felt the need for contact with the outside world, as the microcosms of Atlantis provided everything for him that he needed to live, and therefore has no desire for anyone to drop in unannounced. Stromberg had little respect for human life, and therefore no pity for those who had even served him. When Professor Markowitz and Dr. Beckman had finished developing the tracking system for him, Stromberg immediately had them killed by blowing up their helicopter from the comfort of his own study, and probably the unaware pilot too. Bit of a dick thing to do when you think about it. In spite of his advanced age, he could not resist the charms and company of a beautiful woman. Even an eccentric recluse has certain needs that even he can't ignore. This became clear when he captured Anya Amazova, sparing her so that she could share his life in his future underwater kingdom, serving as his mistress.
For me, this is all the world. There's beauty, there's ugliness, and there's death.
Stromberg has a gas-powered torpedo gun hidden underneath his dining table on board his Atlantis research laboratory. The gun fires an explosive missile through its long tube that runs almost the entire length of the table. As a means of disposing of any unwanted guests to Atlantis, Stromberg has installed an elevator with a hidden trapdoor, which, at the push of a button, opens up beneath the victim, causing them to fall onto a chute that leads directly into a pool containing a deadly shark. The Shark Hunter 2-man submersible is a wet submarine that fills with water as it submerges, requiring scuba diving gear to be worn by the occupants. Armed with missiles, Stromberg's men used them to protect his research laboratory by deploying them from the underwater access tubes. Stromberg uses Bell 206 Jet Ranger helicopters as both a means of transportation between Atlantis and the mainland, along with dispatching his enemies. Stromberg's pilot Naomi tries to eliminate Bond and Amazova with one armed with high-powered machine guns. Stromberg 1, formerly known as the Potemkin, was a Yankee-class Soviet nuclear submarine, similar to the Polaris submarines of both the US Navy and Royal Navy. The Potemkin was armed with 16 submarine-launched ballistic missiles with multiple nuclear warheads as a nuclear deterrent for during the Cold War, and its ballistic missiles had ranges from 1,500 to 2,500 nautical miles. Stromberg 2, formerly known as HMS Ranger, was a Resolution-class nuclear submarine, armed with up to 16 UGM-27 Polaris A3 nuclear missiles and multiple Tiger Fish wired guided homing torpedoes. Like its Soviet equivalent, its missiles had a range of up to 2,500 nautical miles. The marine-obsessed megalomaniac had an entire private military force at his disposal to guard his numerous assets and carry out his master plan, consisting of sailors, submariners, assassins, all armed with a variety of firearms, from Sterling L2A3 submachine guns to MGC M16 rifles, and even grenades. Stromberg's seagoing lair was a massive submersible that he called Atlantis, located off the coast of Corsica.
Actually, sir, it is in Sardinia.
Oh, my mistake, Anya. The dream home of any billionaire recluse who despises every aspect of terrestrial civilization. It contains every luxury required, from a dining area, a private study, laboratories, and helicopter pads for transport to the mainland. Even Stromberg's personal escape pod is stocked with comforts like a round comfy bed, books, magazines, and spirits. Its crab-like design and impressive aquarium filled with exotic, deadly marine life reflected its owner's dark obsession with the sea and with power. Atlantis also functions as the nerve center of Stromberg's plan to wipe out life on land and create an underwater city with himself as sole ruler. Rising 656 feet into the air, Atlantis was supported by gigantic pontoons which rested on the seabed while the craft was stationary. As Atlantis had no engine, it was towed from place to place along the Mediterranean coasts by Stromberg's supertanker. The pride of Stromberg's shipping fleet, the Liparus is the second largest supertanker in the world at over 1 million tons.
After the Karl Marx, of course.
Once again, thank you, Anya. However, it has been designed to include several unorthodox options. Its bow opens to reveal an interior which acts as a full-scale harbour, complete with submarine ports and loading docks. There is also an armoured control room and a heavily armed crew that serves as Stromberg's personal army. The tanker's width can easily accommodate the 3 full-size nuclear submarines, which are literally swallowed by the Liparus as part of Stromberg's scheme for nuclear destruction. It is from this ship that he launches the submarines as instruments of Armageddon to destroy both New York and Moscow.
I'm not interested in extortion. I intend to change the face of history.
By destroying the world?
By creating a world. A new and beautiful world beneath the sea.
After Commander Carter receives orders from Washington to destroy Atlantis, Bond manages to convince him to wait for an hour in order for him to enter the aquatic fortress and save Amasova. When Bond finally arrives, Stromberg addresses him over the PA system and tells him that he will send the elevator down for him. Planning to drop his enemy into the shark tank, Stromberg is surprised to see that 007 has evaded his trap by keeping his feet off the floor. Arriving safely at Stromberg's living quarters, Bond sits down at the dining table opposite Stromberg. The criminal then tries to shoot Bond with a hidden torpedo gun attached under the table, but Bond evades the missile. Bond coolly aims his gun underneath the table, then exercises his license to kill.
You shot your boat, Stromberg. Now it's my turn.
He then proceeds to rescue Amasova and they leave in an escape pod before Atlantis is torpedoed and sinks to the bottom of the sea, giving the deceased Stromberg the burial at sea he so rightly deserves.
Huh. Maybe I misjudged Stromberg. Any man who drinks Dom Perignon 52 can't be all bad.
And there we have it. Thank you once again for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed watching it as I enjoyed making it. Don't forget to share this video around to your friends who may also enjoy it. And don't forget to hit the like button because that will let me know if you're interested in seeing more content like this one. And if you're interested, feel free to leave a comment. Let me know what kind of video you think I should do next. I'm always interested because I enjoy making them. Be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I'd love to have you on there, and if you just want to chat or nerd out about Bond or anything really, you can find me there. All links in the description below. And on that note, 00 Joe will return in the next video.